My name is Mehmet Ozalp. I am a Muslim living in Sydney. I am the head of school for Centre for Islamic Studies and Civilization at Charles Sturt University, also the president of Islamic Sciences and Research Academy of Australia. Well, my experience of being a Muslim in Sydney has been evolving over time. Initially, in my teenage years, it's been more like I felt like a wog a migrant in amongst Australians, and felt a little bit detached and not belong anywhere. But eventually I found my place within especially the multicultural community at the university which I was in. But later, as I have evolved as a person, I became an activist for within the Muslim community. And in that role, I have interacted with people in Sydney more than any other time in my life. The view of Muslims within the Sydney community is not a positive one. There has been research which says that 57% of Sydney-siders do not think that Muslims belong to Sydney or Australia, for that matter. That is a scary figure. But what we find is that people who interact with Muslims have a different opinion. So I really think that dialogue and social interaction is the key. The view of Muslims in the greater society is built on certain misconceptions and stereotypes, which is funneled by media largely. So people don't really have experience with Muslims. And what they see from the news is very negative, obviously, and a certain type of Muslim is projected. And they're worried about that, and they don't want people like that in Australia. I don't really blame them in that sense. The media has a great responsibility, and so do anyone who have power in our society. They're the ones who can change public opinion and lead it. Although media has been better compared to 15 years ago, it was really worse. More and more media people are now being educated in Islam and they're interacting with Muslims, but their instincts to sell sensational stories still kicks in sometimes, unfortunately. I mean, I had a very enlightening experience with media in 2004. At that time, the managing editor of Daily Telegraph, we visited the place, and I asked him, why do you always cover Muslims in a negative connection with terrorism? And his answer was telling. He said that, Mehmet, a newspaper is a business enterprise. Every morning I get a paper half full with ads. My job is to sell those ads with news. At the moment, three things sell: David Beckham, war on Iraq, and terrorism. So we're going to keep on covering that. What I find that people act on ignorance. And I was having discussion with a very educated thinker, and I just said to him, have you ever met a Muslim in your life? He was silent. What do you know about Islam? I said to him. He was silent. Then why do you keep on making these conclusions that you have no knowledge about? So this is the key frustration that I have as a Muslim. People jump into conclusions with misconceptions and ignorance. So what the solution to that is, I believe, is education, informing, but also interacting with people and engaging in dialogue. A dialogue beyond the everyday transactions that people usually make. Go to work, buy a ticket at the station, and go to bank, get money, you talk to people that way. But these are not proper interactions, these are transactions. But really what brings out our humanity and builds relationship is when we see each other at the human level. For the future for the Muslim community in Sydney, it will be a challenging one. I think we are still up for a decade or two of what we're currently having. But in the end, I truly believe that Muslims will settle and integrate well into the society. With every generation of Muslims will be more skilled in communication and relationship building, as well as feeling more Australian than what their parents have. My advice to people out there is that look at everything critically and look for fact-based evidence, not just someone's interpretations of what's happening in the world, because most likely there are multiple interpretations, and the reality could be different to someone's interpretation. So look for facts, look critically, which many Australians do, and that look for ways of meeting Muslims. Muslims are working very hard, and they are very welcoming and hospitable people if you really meet them.